Imagine having a secret key, not just for doors, but for unlocking your deepest desires. What if achieving what you really want comes down to, well, what you truly believe?
Exactly. And today we're diving deep into this core idea from our source material, the principle of faith.
Right, from 3.pdf. And it presents faith as something, well, almost practical, like a skill you can learn to create the life you want.
Precisely. It's not about faith in a purely, say, abstract or religious sense here, though that's mentioned. It's presented as a tangible force, something you can actually harness.
So our mission today is to unpack how this source describes faith as a real tool for, your personal life, your professional journey, no matter your background.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so the text starts with this really strong image. Faith is the head chemist of the mind. I read that and thought, okay, what exactly does that mean? Let's unpack that.
It's a powerful metaphor, isn't it?
Yeah.
The idea is that faith is like the crucial ingredient, maybe the catalyst, in any kind of mental transformation.
A catalyst. How so?
Well, the source suggests that when you take a thought and you actively combine it with faith, that's when something potent happens. It creates this blend.
A blend that does what?
This combination, this faith-infused thought, is supposedly picked up immediately by your subconscious mind.
Okay.
And then it's translated into its spiritual equivalent, which connects with what the text calls infinite intelligence.
Infinite intelligence. Okay, big concept there. So the key isn't just having thoughts, it's consciously adding this faith element, like a recipe.
Exactly. You're consciously adding the active ingredient to your mental recipe for achieving what you desire. You control that input.
And it highlights certain emotions that really turn up the volume on this reaction, right? Faith itself, of course, but also love, and then interestingly, sex.
Yes, that trio is presented as the most powerful positive emotions. When you infuse a thought with the energy from these feelings, it gives the thought a sort of vibrational charge.
A charge that lets it?
Yeah.
What? Go deeper?
Pretty much. It allows it to bypass your conscious mind, your everyday thinking, and directly influence the subconscious.
Ah, so it's like getting direct access.
Exactly. Direct access to that part of you that, according to the text, translates things into that spiritual equivalent and connects with that infinite intelligence. These emotions supercharge the signal.
It does make a distinction, though. It says love and faith are psychic, sort of spiritual, while sex is purely biological. Why separate them like that?
That's a good point. I think it's emphasizing the unique role faith and love play in connecting with the non-physical, as the text presents it. They operate on a different level, perhaps a more refined frequency, when it comes to shaping the subconscious and manifesting desires, compared to the more primal drive of sex.
Okay, so faith and love have this special resonance.
That seems to be the implication, yeah.
So if faith is this vital head chemist, this essential ingredient, the big question is, how do we actually get more of it? Because let's be honest, sometimes that kind of belief feels elusive, like you either have it or you don't.
That's a really critical question, and the text tackles it head-on with the principle of autosuggestion.
Autosuggestion, okay.
The core idea here is powerful. Faith isn't just something you're born with or without. It's presented as a mental muscle, something you can actively develop.
How? Through autosuggestion.
Yes, by consistently, deliberately feeding instructions and affirmations to your subconscious mind.
Hmm.
Think of it like planting seeds, positive seeds, in the fertile ground of your unconscious.
So you're essentially training your subconscious through repetition, telling it what to believe.
Precisely. The argument is, if you repeatedly tell your subconscious mind with conviction that you already have unwavering faith in achieving your goal, well, it starts to accept that as fact.
And then what happens?
Then it acts on that belief.
Yeah.
It reflects it back to your conscious mind as a feeling of faith, and crucially, it starts generating ideas, plans, pathways to actually help you achieve the thing you're focused on.
The text compares describing faith to someone without it to describing color to someone blind. That really hits home. It is hard to explain.
It is. But the text strongly insists that it can be developed. It's not some mystical gift.
So it's a state of mind you build.
Exactly. A state of mind built deliberately through applying these specific principles. Repetition and affirmation directed at the subconscious are the main tools.
It says, quite bluntly, that this is the only method of voluntary development of the emotion of faith.
That's a very strong statement, isn't it? It emphasizes the power of conscious, repeated self-instruction above all else for building that belief.
It even uses a kind of startling example, how someone can become a criminal through repeated exposure, repeated thoughts about crime.
Yeah, that's a stark analogy. but it drives the point home hard. The subconscious, according to this, accepts any thought impulse that's impressed upon it consistently, whether it's positive or negative.
It doesn't judge.
It doesn't judge.
Yeah.
It just translates those dominant thoughts into your reality using the means available. It really makes you think about your own internal monologue, doesn't it?
Definitely. So it's not just about a fleeting positive thought then. It's about taking that thought, giving it feeling, emotionalizing it, and then mixing it with this faith you're building.
Exactly that. The text really emphasizes this. Thoughts that are emotionalized, charged with feeling, and mixed with faith, they start translating into their physical equivalent almost immediately.
The emotion gives it the power, the action.
That's the idea. Emotions provide the vitality, the energy, the drive to make thoughts move towards becoming reality.
And, it's a double-edged sword, right. Because negative thoughts charged with negative emotions like fear or doubt, they work the same way.
Absolutely. The text is very clear on this. The subconscious acts just as readily on negative, destructive thought impulses as it does on positive ones.
So that's the explanation for misfortune. It's our negative beliefs being acted out.
That's the argument presented, yes.
Yeah.
That persistent negative beliefs fed to the subconscious inevitably translate into negative experiences in our external reality. It really underscores the need to be mindful of what we consistently focus on and believe.
So, when using autosuggestion, the advice is to do it with real expectancy, real belief, and even act as if you already have what you want. That sounds a bit like tricking yourself.
Well, the text actually calls it a form of deceit, but meant positively. By acting and thinking as if your goal is already achieved, you're sending a much stronger, more congruent signal to your subconscious.
Making it more believable for the subconscious to grab onto.
Exactly. It helps align your inner state with your desired outer state,
Right.
making the subconscious more likely to accept the suggestion and get to work on it.
And like any skill, this takes practice. You can't just affirm once and expect miracles.
Absolutely not. Consistent practice is key. The text stresses this. Mastering the ability to consciously mix faith with your mental instructions is an ongoing process. Like training any muscle, it takes regular effort over time.
Okay, let's shift slightly. The text also talks a lot about our overall mental attitude, the importance of keeping positive emotions dominant. How does that fit in with building faith?
It's all interconnected. The idea is that our mind tends to take on the nature of whatever influences are most dominant within it. So if you actively cultivate positive emotions, gratitude, love, hope, and work to minimize negative ones like fear, envy, hatred.
So you create a better environment.
Precisely. You create a more favorable internal environment. A positive mental attitude, as the text calls it, makes the subconscious much more receptive to those positive, faith-filled instructions you're sending it via autosuggestion. It's like preparing fertile soil for planting those seeds of desire.
It's interesting that how the text moves to discuss faith, kind of. Outside of just religion, it argues for faith as a more fundamental principle.
Yes, and this is quite significant. The source points out that while many religions talk about faith, they often don't explain how to develop it practically.
Right, the how-to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This text defines faith very specifically as a state of mind you can intentionally create through self-suggestion. That makes it a tool, potentially accessible to anyone, whatever their spiritual beliefs or lack thereof. It's sort of democratizing faith.
And the language used is incredibly strong. Faith is called the eternal elixir, the basis of riches, even miracles.
It really positions faith as profoundly powerful. It's described as the force giving life and power to thoughts, the starting point of all achievement, the antidote to failure, even the way to directly communicate with infinite intelligence.
Wow. So it elevates thought.
Yes, it's presented as the agent that transforms an ordinary thought impulse into its spiritual equivalent, allowing us to tap into a larger cosmic force. That's the essence of it.
And the text claims these huge statements are actually provable through autosuggestion. How does it justify that?
The core logic is based on the power of repetition on belief. If you repeat any statement to yourself enough times, whether it's initially true or false, you will eventually come to accept it as true.
So we become what we dominantly think.
That's the idea, especially thoughts we deliberately place in our minds and charge with emotion. Those become the architects of our reality.
It uses that analogy of thoughts being like magnets drawing similar thoughts to them.
Yes, that's a vivid way to put it. Emotionally charged thoughts create a kind of magnetic field, attracting other thoughts on the same frequency. Like a seed planted in good soil. It doesn't just stay a seed, it multiplies, grows, and eventually dominates the landscape. A dominant thought does the same in the mind.
Which leads into this idea of a whole environment of thought vibrations around us.
Right. The text suggests the universe is full of energy, signals, vibrations, from physical forces to, maybe, thought impulses themselves. It acknowledges science doesn't fully grasp thought transmission, but points to things like ESP experiments as potential indicators.
So our minds are like receivers.
Kind of. Constantly attracting vibrations that match our dominant thoughts, pulling from a vast storehouse of both constructive and destructive influences out there. We're always tuning into something.
So if I'm constantly dwelling on, say, lack, I'm tuning into and attracting more thoughts and experiences of lack.
According to this principle, yes. Any idea held consistently in the mind acts like a magnet for related thoughts, growing stronger until it becomes a motivating master, driving your actions and perceptions.
Which brings us right back to the practical advice. Actively plant the seed of your desired idea through repetition. That's why writing down your definite chief aim and repeating it daily is so emphasized.
Exactly. That repetition drives the idea past the conscious filter and deep into the subconscious. The text even posits that our current life situation is largely a result of the thought vibrations we've passively absorbed from our environment over time.
But the encouraging part is we can change that.
Yes. We can choose to override negative environmental influences and deliberately build the life we want by consciously managing our own dominant thoughts and cultivating faith in our aims.
Okay, this seems like the perfect lead-in to the self-confidence formula presented in the text. It feels like a very practical, step-by-step application of everything we've just discussed. Faith, autosuggestion.
It really is. That 6-point formula is designed as a concrete action plan, things you can actually do to systematically build self-confidence, which the text views as a natural result of applying these principles.
Let's quickly walk through those 6 points. First, believe you can achieve your specific desire and demand persistent, continuous action towards it.
Right. Establishing that core belief in your ability and committing to the necessary work. Foundational.
Second, realize your dominant thoughts eventually manifest physically, so spend time daily visualizing the person you intend to become.
That reinforces the idea of the subconscious translating inner thoughts to outer reality. Visualization becomes a key tool for directing that process.
Third, know that any persistent desire seeks expression through practical means and dedicate time daily to specifically demanding self-confidence from yourself.
It highlights that strong desire is a powerful motivator, and actively cultivating self-belief is essential to making that desire real.
Fourth, write down your clear, definite chief aim and stick with it persistently until you feel you have the self-confidence for its attainment.
Underscores clarity of purpose and the need for sheer persistence, fueled by that growing inner confidence.
Fifth is interesting an ethical component. Base actions on truth and justice, aim for mutual benefit, and actively eliminate negative emotions like hate, envy, jealousy, selfishness, cynicism.
Suggesting that lasting success requires integrity and positive relationships, and that negativity is self-sabotaging, a clean mental house, so to speak.
And the sixth, the linchpin. Sign the formula, memorize it, and repeat it aloud daily, with full faith that it is influencing your thoughts and actions.
That's the direct application of autosuggestion, consciously, consistently reinforcing the desired beliefs in the subconscious.
It's interesting that the text admits the underlying law of autosuggestion isn't fully explained by science, but still asserts its power.
Yeah, it acknowledges a natural principle at work, even without a complete scientific breakdown. It emphasizes that this law is a tool. Use it constructively for success, or let negative thoughts use it destructively, leading towards failure.
You don't care which way it's used.
Apparently not. The subconscious just executes the dominant program, which makes the example of suggestive suicide so chilling. It shows the potential destructive power of negative belief.
A stark warning.
Definitely. Our deeply held beliefs, positive or negative, have real, tangible consequences.
The analogy to electricity is quite good about a powerful force, useful or dangerous depending on how it's directed.
Very apt. Autosuggestion is presented as this potent mental force. Use it with positive intent, fueled by faith, for great results. Let it run wild with fear and doubt, and it creates the very things you dread.
And that poem included about the state of mind. It really hammers home that belief in yourself is the absolute starting point.
It captures the essence beautifully, doesn't it? Your core beliefs about your capabilities heavily influence your results. If you think you are beaten, you are.
Moving on, the text offers this really hopeful idea. Everyone has a seed achievement inside them, just waiting to be awakened.
It's a very encouraging perspective. Potential isn't limited, it's inherent. Like a musician drawing beautiful music from an instrument, we can learn to tap into our own potential.
It uses Abraham Lincoln's later success as an example, suggesting a powerful experience involving sorrow and love woke up his sleeping genius.
Yeah, Lincoln's story is used to show that breakthroughs can happen at any time, often sparked by deep emotional experiences. Love, even grief, can be a catalyst.
And it notes the connection between love and faith, saying love is close to translating thoughts into their spiritual equivalent.
And it mentions that observation, how often the love and support of a spouse seemed crucial for the success of highly accomplished people. Underscores that positive emotional connection again.
Then it broadens out, looking at faith in religion and leadership, citing Jesus, Gandhi, texts from different traditions.
The goal there seems to be showing this principle isn't confined to one philosophy. It's presented as a fundamental element across history and cultures. Jesus and Gandhi are prime examples of immense influence wielded through faith, often without traditional power.
And it even suggests businesses can learn from Gandhi, move towards cooperation and faith, away from force and fear.
It's quite a progressive idea for business leadership presented there. Leaders who grasp and apply faith principles can build stronger teams, inspire loyalty, and achieve more sustainable success through shared belief, not just command and control.
Okay, so bringing all these abstract ideas into the real world, the text gives this detailed case study. The formation of U.S. Steel back in 1900, presented as proof of desire plus faith turning into reality.
Yes, it's positioned as the prime example. How Charles Schwab's intangible desire, mixed with faith, meditation, and persistence, was transmuted into a massive corporation. It breaks it down into 6 steps.
Let's recap those quickly. 1, the idea starts in Schwab's mind.
2, he mixes that idea with absolute faith, believes in it totally.
3, he formulates a plan. 4, he puts it into action, that famous speech.
5, persistence and firm decision, sticking with it. And 6, underlying it all, a burning desire for success.
That story of the dinner speech to J.P. Morgan is incredible. Apparently it wasn't some polished performance, but the sheer conviction won Morgan over.
Exactly. Schwab's genuine enthusiasm and clear vision for Steel's future efficiency, expansion, resonated with Morgan's financial mind. It wasn't just the words, it was the faith behind them.
And Schwab had to convince Morgan that bringing in Andrew Carnegie's giant operation was essential.
Crucial step. Morgan knew a Steel trust without Carnegie wouldn't truly dominate. Schwab's belief and persuasive ability were key to getting both Morgan and the formidable Carnegie on board for this massive deal.
The scale is mind-boggling for that time, $400 million for Carnegie's company. And the text says the value jumped $600 million just through consolidation.
It uses that huge jump in value as evidence. Proof that the intangible idea, powered by faith and vision, created tangible wealth. That $600 million is framed as the direct result of Schwab's faith-fueled idea.
So the U.S. Steel story serves as the ultimate illustration. Riches really do begin as a thought. The only limits are the ones we put on our own minds.
And faith removes those limits. That's the concluding point. Schwab's idea, plus his faith in conveying it, created enormous value, demonstrating the principle in action.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, the big takeaway seems to be that faith, as presented here, isn't passive. It's an active, dynamic force you can consciously build.
Right. Primarily using autosuggestion, deliberately feeding your subconscious. And remember, emotion amplifies its power significantly.
And the examples like Gandhi or U.S. Steel show this isn't just theory. It's presented as having real practical implications for your own goals.
Absolutely. It's meant to be applied.
So here's that final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. How can you, starting today, consciously use autosuggestion to build that unwavering faith in your most important goals, your deepest desires?
And think about what riches, in the broadest sense, could be financial, personal fulfillment, impact, what might result for you from that focused, intentional mental effort.
Definitely something to explore further. We really encourage you to look more into autosuggestion and the incredible power of your own beliefs.